Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions.
If you hadn't done it, I wouldn't have had a clue that I could.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, we have to lead people, right? And it's through our actions that we lead them, not
Exactly.
through our words.
Yes.
Right? So
Yes.
they have to see us do things. They have to see us take those chances. They have to know that, life is about taking chances. It's about taking risks, right? So when you came out here, what did you were in the insurance industry in Iowa. When you came out here, what did you do?
So when I moved, actually, I had been working for the coaching organization. I
Okay.
was their blog editor. So I got to work with everyone's stories.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
so that's what I started doing, was working in the publishing industry. I worked for another publication called the Good Men Project.
Okay.
And I helped them build a sponsorship program. So I was doing all this work with people's stories. And then when I was in the insurance, I was in marketing. So all of those skills are transferable. So I would do marketing consulting. And then when I started writing my own books, I then became a writing coach and a self-publishing partner to help other people write and publish their books.
How cool. And you've written 4 books?
3 books.
3 books.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're now a coach. You're now an author.
Mm-hmm.
You also consult.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
You're wearing a lot of hats.
I am. And a TEDx speaker too.
And
I did
TEDx speaker, right? Let's not forget the TEDx speaker.
Yeah.
So what are you working on now? So what is it that what's your current project, I guess?
So my current project is a couple of things. So one is I just really firmly believe in people's stories. And one thing that's interesting to me that you've probably found is that no matter how different our stories are, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Like they all have the same thread. We all have the same need. We all have the same challenges.
Isn't that
different.
the truth?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. It's like we're all human beings or something.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
So that's the main thing, is working with people on their stories. I do have a new client that we're building a publishing company together.
Wow.
Which is exciting.
Congratulations.
So, yeah.
So what are you publishing?
So he is a podcaster. His name is Brian Scott of the Reality Revolution.
Okay.
He's got a fantastic podcast, and we are going to be turning those podcast episodes into books.
Awesome.
And then also using that platform for the other clients that I already work with. So we'll be able to put it all under that umbrella.
I love that idea.
I do too.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
That is really cool.
Thank you.
So you're getting into publishing.
Yep.
What else are you doing?
So I have started working with a company called LifeWave, and they have these fun.
Say it again. Say the name again.
LifeWave.
LifeWave. Okay.
Yep. And they are patches you put on your skin that help you heal your body from the inside out.
Really?
Yes.
So tell me how that works.
It's called photobiomodulation.
Okay.
Which is basically the same thing as when you go out in the sun, and it activates your own body's vitamin D.
Right.
Patches do the same thing.
Really?
Yes. So
what are you activating with the patches?
It's a copper peptide, but essentially it's your stem cells. So, as we age, our stem cells go dormant, and the patches will help reactivate them. And then it can heal all sorts of things in your body. And there are
Wow,
different
I could use
patches
some
for
healing.
uh, everybody can. Legitimately, everybody can. And it really helps with just longevity and health and vitality. And it's just been an amazing, I just joined the community in October,
Mhm.
and it's been life-changing for me. So I really want to help get these in the hands of people who could definitely use them.
Okay, so there's going to be people that are listening that are going to be interested in this. So how do they
Yes.
reach you to get a hold of those?
I can give you a link, but it's lifewave.com
Okay.
/frequency dealer.
So it's just like it sounds. Life, Life, wave, WAVE.com. There you go. There you go.
Yep.
Okay.
Lifewave.com /frequency dealer.
Okay.
So I'm actually changing my brand to be frequency dealer,
Okay.
because essentially everything that I do, writing books, health products, help you change your frequency.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that I love about writing is that it helps me process emotion. So sometimes I'll say, I don't know what I'm thinking until I write. And then I write and I was like, oh, there it is.
Okay.
So it really helps. And that's the platform that I want to use going forward, is frequency dealer.
So talk about that process for a second. So
Yes.
when you're writing, and I'm currently writing a book, full disclosure.
Oh, awesome.
I'm actually in the process of writing 3, but I'm trying to write the first one first, right?
Yes. First things first.
I identified I've got my ghostwriter on board, and we're
Excellent.
going to it. So
Good.
so when you're writing, how does that help you with thinking and your emotions, and how does that explain that process real quick?
It's kind of like, have you seen that meme where they talk about where you're going to a therapist and they have this like big curly ball of yarn above their head and it's a mess. And then they talk to the therapist and it's straight lines. Like, they take the different colors and organize them and make them go direct. So you take this like mess of things you have in your brain, and then when you organize it, just like you're organizing with your book, you're able to segment it and piece and part it out, and then it makes sense. And when it makes sense, it's the same thing as when you express it, it dissipates, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So
So saying it actually doesn't seem as big once you say it, right? But when it's in here, when you're holding it in, it
yes,
feels like this enormous thing that you just almost can't carry around anymore. Like
yes,
you're going to burst or something, right? And
yes,
then you actually talk about it and you actually get it out, and then you're just like, well, what? That felt so much bigger.
yeah. And that there's another part of it, there's a couple different parts of it that I wasn't quite familiar with until I wrote my books. And that is, writing is the biggest manifesting tool there is.
Okay.
So like my first book, Transcendence, which is
Mhm.
about dancing and allowing the universe to lead your dance with life, was a lot of trauma. Like, it was a lot of discussion of my depression and different challenging things that happened to me throughout my life. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, I get to relive all of this. Like, it literally just brought about the circumstances that I wrote in the book. So when I wrote the second book, I was much more deliberate in being careful about not necessarily what I wrote, but how I wrote it. And Jason Silva has a really great video. I can't remember what it's called, but where when you write, you can essentially rewrite your memories.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
How
It's
does
a
that work?
fantastic video. I don't know. I'd have to look at his video where he described it, but it's just, and it's not so much that you change the memory, but you change your perception around it.
Oh,
So,
gotcha. Okay.
like, writing it helps you make sense of it. And then when you make, like, for example, I've been writing for Business Insider, and I wrote an article last night about taking a 50% pay cut to have a work-life balance.
Wow.
Yeah, I did that like mid-career. I took a 50% pay cut to have better work-life balance. And it was obviously a challenging transition.
Mhm.
But when I wrote it last night, I had nothing but gratitude for the whole experience, because had I not changed jobs and went part-time at the time that I did, I wouldn't have been there to be able to support my parents when they passed. Like there's no way I could have done that in the job I had before.
Wouldn't have the time.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So when I wrote it last night, I was like, oh, and I know this story, right? It happened to me in 2006, I think is when I actually made that change. But writing it finally last night, and then I shared it with my best friend. She's like, I love this. And isn't it cool to look at it? And I'm like, yeah, honestly, I never looked at it this way until I had to write it down.
Yeah.
And then once I wrote it down, I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool.
Yeah. It's gotta be cathartic,
It is. It is. Yeah,
Wow.
just like
That's
journaling or any kind of writing. It's really just helps me process that emotion and figure out uh, where I was at the time, where I am now, what the right perspective is, how can I look at it differently. It's just a beautiful way to reframe everything.
well, it's like therapy.
It is therapy. It's self-care for me. Like when I don't write, I'm not happy.
Oh,
Yeah. It's
wow.
kind of like dancing for me. I need to dance and I need to write. I tell my good friends, I'm like, if I'm not writing on Facebook, like if I'm just sharing memes, I'm not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because usually I'll write, and it's so funny because I didn't join Facebook because I didn't want anyone to know the truth of my life.
Right.
But if you would see what I post on Facebook, like everybody knows a lot about my life these
Yeah.
days. So I share a lot.
Well, that's part of that awakening though,
It
right?
is.
That process that you went through where, you almost are like a butterfly out of a cocoon,
Thank you. Yeah.
right? Where you're spreading your wings and you're beautiful and you're just, you're going for it, right? And
Yes.
it's a time like when you moved from Iowa to California, right? It's a time where you're expanding and you're growing and I mean, this is really, really cool what you're doing. It really is. I'm super excited for you. So publishing company, lifewave.com. What else? Anything else?
No,
Obviously you're dancing.
I am
Obviously you're
dancing.
sharing on Facebook, right? Right?
Yes,
You're writing for
definitely.
Business Insider. Are you writing for any other publications?
Not yet, but I want to. Like when I first moved here, I was like, I just want to live life and write about it. Like that's my dream job. And Southern California has like some amazing, crazy experiences here. Like
Kind of.
that's, yeah, that's the thing I love about California. No matter how weird you are or whatever weird interest you have, there are other people also interested and setting up events to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So I just like my dream job would be to just live, go do those experiences and write about it. And I have been trying to write paid articles since
Yeah.
before I moved, honestly. And I just got writing for Business Insider. So again, 7 years before I got, I'm not going to say it's in my big break, but the break that I
Mhm.
wanted to. So that's been another like very repeated theme of my story is that no matter how hard things are, you just gotta keep going.
Yeah. And it's true. I mean, we actually talked about this earlier today. If so we interviewed somebody who's just unbelievably successful in the Entrepreneur of the Year Hall of Fame. No joke.
Wow,
I
nice.
mean, he's working on his 13th book right now, right? And he told a story of how he went to New York with his wife and he wanted to be a published songwriter. That was
Hmm.
his thing. He wanted to be a published songwriter. So he wrote a bunch of songs. He put them on cassette tape, where, you and I know what a cassette tape is, but a lot of the people
Yes,
that are listening to this won't, right?
right.
But he put it on cassette tape and he took the cassette tape with his wife and went to these different places and they had 40 appointments a week with music publishers. So he goes and he meets with this music publisher that had worked with the Beatles.
Oh, wow.
And the guy takes the cassette tape from him, puts it in his cassette player, fast forward, listens to 10 seconds of the beginning of each song, fast forwards through all of them, takes the tape out, hands it back to him, and says, "You're done. You have no talent. You might as
Oh,
well."
no. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he literally was crushed because he was a
Yep.
huge Beatles fan, and this guy was like the king of the kings, according to him, as far as he saw him, right? And he literally walked outside with his wife and said, "Okay, we got to go home. We need to cancel all the rest of the appointments." And she looked at him and goes, "That's one guy.
Yes. Yes.
You don't stop just because one guy has an opinion. It doesn't mean that he's right. It's just his opinion, right?"
Right.
He goes to the very next appointment 30 minutes later and gets a song published.
Mhm.
And it's Billy Joel's the guy that published Billy Joel's music.
Yes.
And he's literally sitting there and he's going through this thing, and this guest that we had on earlier is like all down on himself and all this kind of
Yep.
stuff. He's like, "Thank you for your time." And the guy goes, "Why are you like this? I really like these songs. I want to publish this one."
Yes.
And he's like, "You
Yes.
could have knocked him over with a feather." But here's the thing: if he had quit
Right.
after the Beatles guy said what he said, he'd have never been published. There's no telling what his life would have been like.
Yes.
You
And
just
we
gotta
also
keep
need to be
going.
careful of not being like that Beatles guy and saying to someone you have no talent.
Right.
You know what like, because that can crush a person. Like
Absolutely.
it can and stop them. If his wife hadn't encouraged him to keep going, he might have stopped.
Well, it crushed him.
Yeah,
It crushed
absolutely.
him. He was having a major emotional breakdown standing on the street outside this building, right? Because
Yep.
this guy that he had put on this large pedestal, by the way, the
Yep.
next publisher that he talked to that ended up publishing one of his songs, he goes, "Why are you like this?" He goes, "Well, so-and-so just said," the guy that worked with the Beatles just said, he goes, "That guy didn't work with the Beatles. He stole some of the Beatles material and got in trouble for it." Okay. He's not who you think he is.
That's
Okay.
an excellent point.
Well, we build people up in our minds.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're
And then
all just human.
right. And if it doesn't quite work out, or they have a negative opinion of us or whatever, we're crushed.
Yeah.
The thing is, we want to keep our eye on the ball, right?
Yeah.
We want to keep our eye on what our objective is. So yours was, you wanted to write for business publications. Now you're writing for Business Insider. That's awesome. And by the way, the next one will probably happen tomorrow, right? It's just like,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
just, right? It's the way
Yes.
life works.
Yeah.
It's the way life works, but you just have to put one foot in front of the other. And battling depression, which you've done, and pulling yourself out of it, and being a survivor like you are, not
Yep.
only a survivor but triumphant. I mean, you're a champion, darling. You really are. So I have to ask you a question,
Yes.
because ever since we got on together, I've had a question.
Okay.
You have a tattoo on your chest.
I do.
What's the
There's
story
several,
behind
actually.
the tattoo?
So this one says "Love Me Anyways,"
Right.
and it's actually from an LA artist named Padilla Avocado.
Yeah.
And I met her in the coaching program, and she's an artist, and this was one of her things. She had t-shirts. I used to have a t-shirt that said "Love Me Anyways" on it. And one of her fans got this tattoo, and I was like, I have to have it. So I got this tattoo. But the cool thing is, it shows up in art around LA. Like, I have a picture of me in front of a huge billboard that says "Love Me Anyways."
I love it.
Or it's on the sidewalk, it says "Love Me Anyways." And the one right below it says, we can't say very well, "She protects her peace."
There you go.
And that was important for me when I first started coming out of the depression, and realizing that I don't have to say yes to everything.
Yeah.
That I don't have to please everyone, that it's okay for me to do what I need to do for me.
Right.
And if that piece means I go to the dance club by myself to dance on Friday nights, then that's it. If it means I stay home or I don't communicate with another friend, that's okay.
Yeah.
And
It's
that was
not only
something I
okay,
didn't really learn.
it's not only okay, it's healthy, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody has to practice self-love. They really do.
Yeah.
Because the more we take care of ourselves, the better equipped we're going to be to take care of everybody else.
Yeah.
Right. So I
Yeah.
had a health scare in 2018 and I ended up in the emergency room. You remember the flu that was going around at the end of
Oh, yeah.
2017, beginning of 2018?
Yes.
It was one of the deadliest in decades.
Yep.
I got it with both barrels.
Mm.
And I came out and my fever broke and I couldn't get my heart to stop beating so fast. I had tachycardia. And so I drive myself to the emergency room, spend 7 hours in the emergency room.
Yep.
I go to the doctor the next day and I go, what do I need to do, doc? And she goes, you need to lose weight. I'm like, doc, I've lost 104 pounds. And she goes, well, you need to lose more and you need to do it now.
Wow.
So the next 90 days, I lost 51 pounds.
Wow.
Okay. But what I discovered, besides the fact that I was completely addicted to McDonald's and Reese's peanut butter cups,
Oh,
right?
well,
Oh
that
my,
one I understand.
oh my
McDonald's.
goodness. I mean, just unbelievable. So, but not everything McDonald's makes, but there were some
Yeah.
things that, yeah. So I discovered some things about myself. It was a real journey, right?
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I learned, and this was, they turned to me, literally turned to me and said, if you keep doing what you're doing, if you keep going down the road you're going, where I was putting everybody else first and not me,
Yes. Yes.
you're going to die early.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be here to see your daughter walk your daughter down the aisle. You're not going to be here to watch them graduate from college. My son was a freshman in college at the time. My daughter was a senior in high school. You're not going to be here for those things. You're not going to be here to see your grandkids. You're not going to, right?
Yeah.
Man, did that rock my world. I mean, because I'm all about family. I'm all about being a dad. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it was like, they were saying the exact perfect thing that they needed to get me to a place to where I was going to win. There was no question. It's almost like when you were working yourself out of your depression,
Yes.
you had to have some determination about you to get there.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very easy to fall back into it, you know?
Oh, yes.
And so I started making myself a priority. And I started figuring out that there's
quite a change.
Well, there's a reason. I lost 162 pounds. And there's a reason. This is whole person.
Yeah.
There's a reason why you put your mask on first on the airplane and then you help somebody else, because you got to be able to breathe in order to do it, right?
Exactly.
You got to be able to have some semblance of health in order to be there for the people that you love.
Mm.
And you have to do that to be there for even the people that you don't love, right?
Yep.
It's right. So anyway, I'm so happy that you came on with us. I cherish this time that we had together so much. I am so happy to see how you have championed your life and how you've triumphed. I'm so proud of you. From the bottom of my heart, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you were our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. Thank you again for being here.
Absolutely. It's been an honor. Thank you.
I thoroughly enjoyed our time together.
I did too. It's beautiful.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.